Behind the cold, concrete walls of America's prisons exist secrets that few dare to speak about. Places where power and vulnerability collide daily, creating the perfect conditions for tragedy. What drives someone to risk everything? Their career, reputation, freedom, even their life, for a forbidden connection? Today we examine the shocking story of 34-year-old prison guard Lena Hartley, whose body was discovered in her apartment under mysterious circumstances. The official cause, asphyxiation from a sedative overdose. But the question remains, was it murder, suicide, or something far more complex? Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind prison walls? What profound loneliness might drive a respected professional to cross lines they once swore to protect? Perhaps you felt that dangerous pull towards someone you knew was wrong for you. Someone who represented everything you should avoid. In the quiet town of Millhaven, a scandal erupted that would forever change how the community viewed their local correctional facility. A dedicated prison guard with an unblemished 12-year record. A charismatic inmate serving time for armed robbery. A clandestine affair conducted in shadowed corridors and storage rooms. And at the center of it all, a deadly secret, Darius Cole's HIV-positive status. The story of Lena Hartley reveals how vulnerability can lead to fatal consequences, how the human need for connection can override training, protocol, and common sense. Her affair with Darius Cole began with whispered conversations during night shifts and ended with her lifeless body discovered by a concerned neighbor. What really happened to this prison guard after her affair was exposed? Did shame drive her to take her own life? Did Darius arrange her death to silence a potential witness? Or did someone else entirely decide Lena knew too much? Before we continue into this twisted tale of forbidden desire and deadly consequences, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Scene Insider. Click that notification bell to ensure you never miss our investigations into the darkest corners of human behavior. The Millhaven Correctional Facility scandal shocked this small community to its core. When news broke that a respected guard had been engaging in an illicit relationship with an inmate, public opinion divided sharply. Some viewed Lena as a victim of manipulation, others as a traitor who betrayed her oath. What no one could predict was that within 2 weeks of her suspension, Lena would be dead, her apartment door mysteriously ajar, her body showing no signs of struggle, yet her lungs filled with a sedative strong enough to stop her breathing. This is the story of how crossing boundaries can lead to destruction, how institutions meant to contain danger can sometimes create it, and how the darkest crimes often begin with the most human of needs, the desperate search for connection in a world built on isolation. This is the true story of Lena Hartley and Darius Cole, a cautionary tale that raises disturbing questions about power, manipulation, and the fatal price of forbidden desire. Born and raised in a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts of Millhaven, Lena Hartley knew hardship from an early age. The eldest daughter of factory workers, she lost both parents in a car accident when she was just 20, leaving her responsible for her younger brother. Financial necessity, not passion, guided her career choice. Lena was always the responsible one, recalls former high school teacher Margaret Wilson. She put everyone else's needs before her own. Always. At 22, Lena applied to Millhaven Correctional Facility. The steady paycheck and benefits made it an attractive option, despite the inherent dangers of prison work. Her initial training evaluations described her as methodical, rule-adherent, and exceptionally composed under pressure, qualities that would serve her well within the prison's tense atmosphere. From day one, Lena was the model guard. By the book, professional, kept her distance from inmates. She earned respect quickly, both from staff and prisoners. Never thought she'd be the one to cross that line. For 12 years, Lena built a reputation as unflappable and reliable. She received 3 commendations for preventing violence among inmates and was twice recommended for promotion to sergeant. Opportunities she declined, preferring the predictability of her regular shifts. At 24, Lena married her high school sweetheart, Ethan Hartley. Friends described their early relationship as passionate and supportive. But as years passed, cracks appeared in their foundation. The hours were brutal on their marriage, explains Rachel Monroe, Lena's former neighbor. Ethan worked days at the lumber mill. Lena worked nights at the prison. They barely saw each other. When they did, they fought about money, about children they couldn't afford to have, about dreams neither could fulfill. By her 32nd birthday, Lena's marriage had disintegrated into silent resentment. Ethan moved out in 2022, leaving Lena alone in the small apartment they once shared. The night shift at Millhaven meant 12 hours of hyper-vigilance in an environment where danger lurked behind every interaction. Guards patrolled dimly lit corridors alone, vastly outnumbered by inmates. The constant threat of violence created a pressure cooker of stress that followed officers home. According to Dr. Raymond Collins, a psychologist specializing in correctional staff mental health, prison guards face unique psychological challenges. They must maintain emotional distance while being immersed in others' trauma. They develop defensive mechanisms, detachment, cynicism, emotional numbing, that damage their personal relationships. For Lena, the prison became both escape and prison. At work, strict protocols provided structure missing from her empty home life. Yet each shift extracted a psychological toll: the constant suspicion, the need to project strength, the emotional armor that became increasingly difficult to remove. After Ethan left, something changed in Lena. Notes former co-worker James Mercer. She volunteered for extra shifts, holidays, weekends, like she was avoiding going home. The dark circles under her eyes got deeper. She stopped joining us for post-shift breakfast. Looking back, we should have seen it. Her isolation was growing, but we all thought she was just being Lena. Stoic, independent, handling it on her own. This combination, professional stress, personal loneliness, and the gradual erosion of emotional boundaries, created the perfect conditions for vulnerability. For a woman whose life had become defined by rules and isolation, the attention of a charismatic inmate would prove dangerously attractive. At 38, Darius Cole possessed a criminal record spanning 2 decades. His first arrest came at 16 for grand theft auto, followed by escalating offenses, assault, fraud, and finally the armed robbery of a convenience store that earned him 15 years at Millhaven Correctional Facility. Darius wasn't your typical violent offender, explains Detective Marcus Reynolds, who investigated Cole's case. He was calculating. The robbery wasn't impulsive. He studied the store's patterns for weeks. He knew exactly when the elderly owner would be alone, when the security cameras malfunctioned. He planned every detail. This methodical intelligence made Cole exceptionally dangerous behind bars. Unlike inmates who relied on physical intimidation, Cole wielded influence through charm and strategic manipulation. Cole operated differently, notes former Millhaven warden Thomas Grant. He'd identify what people needed: protection, contraband, information, and position himself as the solution. He cultivated relationships with guards, kitchen staff, medical personnel. They didn't even realize they were being manipulated until it was too late. 6 months into his sentence, routine testing revealed Cole was HIV positive. Medical records indicated he had contracted the virus years earlier, but had avoided treatment. Rather than viewing his diagnosis as a setback, Cole incorporated it into his arsenal of manipulation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, prison psychologist. Cole weaponized his health status in fascinating ways. With violent inmates, he used it as a shield. Many feared any physical confrontation with him. With staff, particularly female staff, he leveraged it for sympathy. He portrayed himself as a victim of circumstance, someone who needed special care and attention. Cole's psychological profile reveals classic traits of antisocial personality disorder combined with unusually high emotional intelligence. His ability to read others, their insecurities, desires, and weaknesses, bordered on preternatural. Darius could walk into a room and instantly tell you who was having marital problems, who was struggling financially, who felt disrespected. Then he'd use that knowledge, offer advice, lend an ear, provide favors. Before long, they'd do anything for him, and they'd think it was their idea. Inside Millhaven, Cole constructed an intricate network spanning every corner of the institution. Kitchen workers smuggled extra food to his cell. Maintenance staff delivered messages. Even medical personnel occasionally looked the other way when contraband changed hands. Financial records reveal Cole's commissary account received regular deposits from multiple outside sources, unusual for an inmate with no family support. Investigation would later uncover these funds came from former inmates still working for Cole on the outside. His pattern of exploitation followed a consistent formula: identify vulnerability, offer solution, extract ongoing payment. A guard with gambling debts might find Cole offering financial assistance in exchange for small favors. A fellow inmate seeking protection would receive it at escalating costs. What makes manipulators like Cole particularly dangerous, explains criminal psychologist Dr. Nathan Harper, is their ability to make victims feel chosen rather than targeted. Lena Hartley didn't see herself entering a dangerous relationship with an inmate. She believed she'd found the one person who truly understood her pain when no one else could. This exceptional talent for emotional manipulation would prove deadly when Cole turned his attention to the increasingly isolated night shift guard, Lena Hartley. The administrative wing of Millhaven Correctional Facility, normally deserted at night, became the setting for what began as seemingly innocent encounters. Darius Cole, assigned to overnight cleaning duty, first crossed paths with Officer Lena Hartley during her solitary patrols. Their early interactions appeared professional, notes former guard supervisor Keith Langston. A nod of acknowledgement, basic instructions about which areas needed cleaning, nothing that would trigger concern. Surveillance footage from multiple nights reveals a pattern: Lena's patrol route gradually extending through the administrative area, her stops near Cole becoming more frequent and longer. What began as 30-second exchanges evolved into 5-minute conversations, always just beyond camera range. Cole recognized Lena's vulnerability immediately. In her tense posture and tired eyes, he saw loneliness, a perfect target. His approach was methodical, first establishing trust through seemingly harmless exchanges about prison policies, then gradually introducing personal topics. The progression follows classic grooming patterns, explains forensic psychologist Dr. Vanessa Mitchell. Cole positioned himself as uniquely understanding. He'd share calculated personal details, childhood struggles similar to Lena's, regrets about life choices, creating false intimacy. For someone starved of connection, this feels like genuine understanding. By April, security logs show Lena taking unusual paths through the facility to intersect with Cole's cleaning schedule. Staff break room cameras captured her collecting extra food, which later disappeared from inventory. "I know it's wrong, but he's the only one who really sees me," reads an entry from Lena's personal journal. "He never listened like Dee does. No judgment, just acceptance. I've never felt this understood." The power dynamics between them created a complex psychological trap. Officially, Lena held authority, control over Cole's privileges, movement, and discipline. Yet emotionally, these roles reversed. Former inmate Miguel Ramirez observed their interactions. "Cole made her feel special. Other guards treated us like animals, but she was different, had compassion. He exploited that, man. Told her she was the only decent person in this place. Watched her soak it up like rain in a desert." What makes someone risk everything for a forbidden connection? Have you ever witnessed how isolation can distort someone's judgment? Share your thoughts on prison relationships in the comments below. Do you think they always represent manipulation, or could genuine feelings develop in such environments? By May, their relationship had escalated dramatically. Prison records indicate Cole received no disciplinary actions despite 3 documented rule violations, incidents overlooked by Lena during her shifts. The contraband cell phone recovered from Cole's cell revealed hundreds of text messages between them, becoming increasingly intimate. Lena smuggled not only the phone, but also cigarettes, premium food items, and eventually her own intimate photographs. Dr. Mitchell explains, "The psychological factors driving Lena's behavior form a perfect storm of vulnerability. First, emotional isolation following her divorce. Second, the high-stress environment creating need for relief. Third, what psychologists call trauma bonding, intense attachment formed under conditions of intermittent reinforcement and power imbalance. Guards work in a paradoxical environment," explains prison counselor Rebecca Turner. "They maintain constant vigilance against manipulation while experiencing profound disconnection from normal society. Their families don't understand their experiences. Inmates become their primary social interaction. The boundary between professional distance and human connection blurs, especially for someone already struggling with personal loss. For Lena, the relationship filled critical psychological needs: validation, connection, excitement, purpose. Each risk taken made the next easier to justify. Each boundary crossed made others seem less significant. By summer, what had begun as conversation had transformed into a physical relationship, conducted in storage closets, empty offices, and blind spots in the prison's surveillance system. Their forbidden connection continued undiscovered for 3 months until a jealous inmate decided to speak up. On August 17, inmate Victor Mendez requested a private meeting with Warden Phillips. For 20 minutes, he detailed observations of Officer Hartley's special treatment of Darius Cole, suspicious late-night encounters, overlooked contraband, whispered conversations in secluded areas. Mendez had his own motivations, explains Internal Affairs Officer Regina Washington. He'd competed with Cole for influence in their cell block. His allegations weren't altruistic. They were calculated to eliminate a rival, but that didn't make them untrue. Within hours, Millhaven initiated Protocol 27, their procedure for investigating staff misconduct. Security footage from the previous 3 months underwent review. Cole's cell received an unannounced inspection, revealing the contraband phone hidden inside his mattress. The messages left no room for interpretation. Explicit exchanges, coordination of meeting times, promises of smuggled items, all documented in stark detail. When confronted with this evidence, Lena offered no defense. Warden Phillips. She sat motionless, staring at the floor. When I asked for an explanation, she simply said, "I have none." After 12 exemplary years, her career ended in a 20-minute meeting. News of the scandal reached local media by evening. The Millhaven Gazette's headline, "Prison Guard Suspended After Affair with Inmate," spread through the community like wildfire. Guard-inmate relationship exposes security concerns. Correctional officer faces termination after inappropriate relationship. Millhaven Prison. Scandal: how deep does corruption go? The public narrative quickly divided into competing interpretations. Cable news segments framed Lena alternately as victim and predator, vulnerable woman and corrupt official. For Lena's younger brother Michael, the media attention proved overwhelming. "Reporters camped outside our apartment," he recalled in a later interview. "They followed me to work, to the grocery store. They asked if I'd seen warning signs, if my sister had always had questionable judgment. They turned her entire life into a sensational headline. Former friends and colleagues distanced themselves immediately. Neighbors who had once greeted Lena warmly now avoided eye contact. Her church removed her from the Sunday school teaching rotation without explanation." At an emergency town hall meeting, Millhaven residents expressed sharply contrasting views. "She betrayed public trust," argued one citizen. "We pay taxes for these guards to maintain order, not sleep with inmates." Another resident countered, "Everyone's acting like she's a criminal. This man manipulated her when she was vulnerable. Where's the compassion?" The prison administration faced its own crisis, with questions about supervision protocols and staff psychological screening. 3 senior officers were reassigned pending review of oversight procedures. For Lena, the professional consequences were immediate: suspension without pay pending termination proceedings. The legal implications remained uncertain, as prosecutors debated potential charges for contraband smuggling and exploitation of authority. Isolated in her apartment, cut off from her income and identity, Lena withdrew completely. Neighbors reported no visitors, no outings, just drawn blinds and occasional grocery deliveries. Her brother's calls went unanswered. Former colleague James Mercer left voicemails offering support, all unreturned. The shame would have been unbearable, suggests psychologist Dr. Mitchell. Her entire identity was built around her professional reputation. When that collapsed, combined with public humiliation and abandonment by her support network, it created perfect conditions for profound despair. No one realized just how deep that despair had become until 2 weeks later. September 4th, 10:17 a.m. Dispatch received a 911 call from Eleanor Winters, a postal worker delivering mail to Lena Hartley's apartment complex. The door was standing open, Winters told operators. I knocked and called out. When nobody answered, I peeked inside and saw her just lying there on the floor. First responders arrived within minutes, confirming what Winters had discovered. Lena Hartley, 34, lay motionless on her living room floor, dressed in gray sweatpants and a t-shirt. No visible trauma, no signs of struggle, her body positioned almost peacefully, as though she'd simply fallen asleep and never woken up. Detective Carson Rhodes, lead investigator. The scene was unusual. Nothing appeared disturbed or ransacked. No forced entry. Her wallet with $43 remained on the counter. Her phone sat charging nearby. If this was a break-in or robbery, it defied typical patterns. The autopsy, conducted by medical examiner Dr. Judith Kaplan, revealed critical details. Cause of death: respiratory depression, lethal levels of propofol, a hospital-grade sedative, in her bloodstream. Time of death estimated between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. No defensive wounds or signs of restraint. No sexual assault. The concentration of propofol was substantial, Dr. Kaplan noted. This is not a medication available by prescription. It's strictly controlled in medical settings. The question becomes, how did she access it, and was its administration voluntary? This evidence spawned two competing theories, each with supporting elements. Those supporting the murder theory point to several troubling factors. First, Lena had no medical background or connections that would provide access to propofol. The drug's presence suggested outside involvement. Second, toxicology screens revealed no alcohol in her system. Unusual if she had been planning suicide, as many use alcohol to reduce inhibition before such acts. Third, her apartment door stood ajar, suggesting someone may have left in haste after administering the drug. Most compelling was a deleted text message recovered from her phone, sent to an unregistered number at 10:23 p.m. I can't keep quiet anymore. I need to talk to someone about what happened. The suicide theory hinges on Lena's psychological state and circumstances. Mental health experts noted her complete social isolation following the scandal. Her internet search history showed multiple queries about painless death methods and how to end suffering. Her bank records revealed a $5,000 cash withdrawal 2 days before her death. Money never recovered. Could this have been used to purchase black market sedatives? Her brother Michael confirmed she had experienced suicidal thoughts following her divorce years earlier. The shame of the scandal would have been unbearable for her, he stated. She built her identity around being respected, doing everything right. No suicide note was found, but a journal entry from the previous evening read simply, "No way forward, no way back." The investigation quickly focused on Darius Cole. When questioned, he maintained composure, expressing shock at Lena's death while denying any involvement. "I cared about her," Cole told investigators. "Why would I harm the one person who showed me kindness?" Yet the timeline raised questions. Prison logs showed Cole made 3 phone calls from the communal phone the night of Lena's death. The calls, to numbers associated with former inmates now free, lasted between 2 and 4 minutes each. Most damning was a message recovered from the contraband phone seized during the initial investigation. "You know what happens to people who talk. Remember our agreement." The case of Lena Hartley remains officially undetermined. Did shame drive a once respected officer to take her own life? Did Darius Cole arrange her silencing through his outside contacts? Or does the truth lie somewhere in between? A vulnerable woman manipulated into her final act by the same man who had already cost her everything? If you have theories about what really happened to Lena Hartley, share them in the comments below. Sometimes the most insightful observations come from fresh perspectives on evidence professionals might overlook. The Hartley case exposed critical gaps in Millhaven's operational protocols. An external audit identified multiple system weaknesses that had enabled the affair to continue undetected for months. The night shift operated with minimal supervision, explains independent investigator Claudia Winters. One senior officer oversaw 6 guards across 3 wings. Camera blind spots existed throughout the facility. Staff rotation policies, designed to prevent inappropriate relationships, had been ignored due to budget constraints. Perhaps most concerning, psychological support services for guards were virtually non-existent. Despite research showing correctional officers experience PTSD rates comparable to combat veterans, Millhaven offered no mandatory counseling or stress management programs. Within 6 months, Millhaven implemented sweeping changes. Installation of additional surveillance cameras covering previously unmonitored areas. Mandatory staff rotation every 3 months. Anonymous reporting system for staff concerns. Required psychological evaluations for all personnel every 6 months. Buddy system eliminating solo patrols during night shifts. For Darius Cole, the aftermath brought unexpected consequences. Though never formally charged in connection with Lena's death, his role in the scandal resulted in transfer to maximum security at Rockford Penitentiary. His privileges were revoked, his carefully constructed network dismantled. Cole lost everything he'd built, notes Corrections Officer Marcus Dawson. His status, his connections, his influence. At Rockford, he's just another inmate, isolated, monitored, powerless. The ripple effects extended far beyond Millhaven. Correctional facilities nationwide faced increased scrutiny over staff-inmate relationships. 27 states initiated reviews of their protocols, with 14 implementing immediate reforms to address similar vulnerabilities. The American Correctional Officers Association developed new guidelines for staff mental health support. Their recommendations, adopted by over 60% of U.S. prisons, emphasize prevention through resilience training and early intervention. Lena Hartley's story changed how we approach staff wellness, explains Association Director Michael Freeman. We recognize that protecting inmates requires protecting guards from psychological exploitation. When we fail to address their vulnerabilities, we create openings for manipulation that threaten the entire system. The true cost, measured in lost trust, damaged lives, and institutional failure, remains incalculable. The case of Lena Hartley and Darius Cole offers no neat conclusions, no satisfying resolution. A life ended, a community shattered, a system exposed. What remains are questions that echo through empty corridors, questions about human connection, vulnerability, and the invisible forces that drive us toward destruction. Was Lena a victim of calculated manipulation or her own desperate longing for connection? Did her death come by her own hand or through outside intervention? These questions may never find definitive answers. Perhaps more important are the lessons her story offers about the human condition. First, isolation creates vulnerability that can override training, ethics, and common sense. In our increasingly disconnected world, this danger extends beyond prison walls. Second, institutions bear responsibility for protecting their members from exploitation. When systems fail to acknowledge human frailty, tragedy becomes inevitable. Third, power dynamics are rarely as clear as they appear. Though Lena officially held authority over Darius, emotionally, their roles reversed, a reminder that control takes many forms. Finally, boundaries exist for protection, not restriction. When we dismantle these guardrails, we expose ourselves to forces we may not recognize until it's too late. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to True Crime Scene Insider for more cases that explore the psychological depths behind criminal behavior. Each video offers not just the facts of disturbing cases, but the meaningful lessons they contain. In the spaces between right and wrong, between power and vulnerability, between connection and exploitation, that's where the most dangerous human dramas unfold. The most frightening truth about Lena Hartley's story isn't what we know happened. It's what we'll never know for certain.